In a small frontier town, there lived a young man named Thomas. He was known for his quick temper and sharp tongue, which often led him into trouble. One fateful day, a disagreement with a fellow townsman named Jack escalated into a serious challenge. A duel at dawn. The townsfolk buzzed with excitement, and the stakes felt high. As the sun rose, two men stood face to face, their hearts racing. The duel was tense. Both men were skilled, but Thomas's anger fueled his determination. In the heat of battle, he made a reckless move and struck Jack down, leaving him wounded and gasping for breath. The crowd fell silent. What started as a clash of pride had turned tragic. Guilt washed over Thomas as he stood over Jack, realizing that their lives would never be the same. As Jack was taken away for help, Thomas felt an emptiness inside him. Though he had won that day, it was a hollow victory that planted the seeds of regret in his heart. He knew he had to make things right, but little did he know that this journey would change him forever. The days following the duel were heavy with tension in the small town. News of Thomas's reckless act spread like wildfire, and whispers filled the air wherever he went. Those who once viewed him as a strong figure now cast wary glances his way. Jack's injury was serious, and the community rallied around him, offering support and sympathy while Thomas found himself increasingly isolated. As he walked through town, empty looks followed him like shadows. He could hear fragments of conversations. What kind of man would hurt another? And a duel should never end like this. Each remark pierced Thomas's heart, reminding him of his foolishness. The weight of his actions pressed down on him. He had not just hurt Jack, but also fractured the trust and camaraderie within their tight-knit community. Meanwhile, Jack lay recovering in silence, grappling with pain and confusion. The friendship they once shared seemed to vanish with every passing hour. Regret gnawed at Thomas, pushing him to realize that an apology was not only necessary, it was now a quest for redemption that could restore what had been lost. Days turned into nights as Thomas struggled with the weight of regret pressing heavily on his heart. Each sunrise felt like a reminder of his reckless choices, and shadows of his past mistakes haunted him. Memories of laughter and camaraderie with Jack replayed in his mind, now twisted by guilt. He spent long hours in solitude, often staring at the empty space where their friendship had once thrived. The ache of knowing he had caused Jack pain consumed him. Thomas would sit on a fallen log near the river, listening to the gentle flow of water, yet feeling an insatiable storm within. He recalled Jack's laughter and shared dreams, and it dawned on him that he had not just wounded a man. He had also attacked the bond they shared. In quiet moments, Thomas could almost hear Jack asking for justice, but what Thomas yearned for was forgiveness. His heart swelled with a mix of desperation and hope as he realized that seeking forgiveness could be the first step in healing both himself and the relationships torn apart by his impulsive actions. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town, Thomas felt a stirring in his heart. He sat on the porch of his modest home, staring at the fading light, and a spark of determination ignited within him. He could no longer bear the burden of his guilt. He needed to confront it head-on. With every ounce of courage he could muster, Thomas made a decision. He would ride out to find Jack and offer his sincerest apology. It wouldn't be easy, but he understood that true bravery lay in admitting one's mistakes. As he thought about how to express his sorrow, he envisioned Jack's face. His eyes filled with pain and disappointment, and it strengthened his resolve. That night, Thomas gathered his supplies, packing only the essentials for his journey. He knew he had to make this trip not just for Jack but for himself as well. The path ahead was uncertain, but with each step he took toward forgiveness, he felt a flicker of hope that healing might be possible. The next morning, he would embark on a quest to repair what had been broken. The next morning, Thomas woke early, the sun just beginning to rise. He felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as he prepared for his journey. Moving with purpose, he gathered essential supplies: a sturdy water canteen, some dried meat, and a few apples. Each item was carefully chosen, for Thomas knew he would need strength for the long ride ahead. He saddled his horse, a loyal creature named Dusty, who had been with him through many adventures. As Thomas brushed Dusty's coat, he whispered words of encouragement, feeling a sense of comfort from the familiar connection. This journey was not just about seeking forgiveness. It was also an opportunity to rediscover his own strength. Before leaving, Thomas took a moment to look back at his home. Memories flooded his mind, both joyful and painful, and he hoped that soon things could change for the better. With resolve in his heart, he mounted Dusty and set off into the early morning light. The road stretched ahead, winding through fields and forests, and with every step, Thomas felt more determined to find Jack and mend what had been broken. As the day unfolded, Thomas rode along winding trails, the sun warming his back and Dusty's steady footsteps creating a comforting rhythm. The landscape around him was beautiful, with fields of wildflowers blooming under the clear blue sky. Yet, despite the scenic views, Thomas's mind was focused on Jack and the pain he had caused. The first day of travel brought its own challenges. As they traversed rocky paths and crossed small streams, Thomas felt fatigue begin to set in. He paused to catch his breath and took a moment to drink some water, watching Dusty graze nearby. It was during these quiet moments that doubt crept in. What if Jack didn't want to forgive him? What if he turned away, angry and resentful? Pushing those thoughts aside, Thomas reminded himself why he was on this journey. Each mile was a step towards healing, not just for Jack but for himself too. As evening approached, he set up camp beneath a towering oak tree. With the fire crackling beside him, Thomas reflected on the day's events and felt a glimmer of hope that tomorrow would bring him closer to redemption. The next morning, Thomas continued his journey, feeling refreshed but also aware that the road would be long and unpredictable. As he rode further, he encountered a small group of travelers making their way to the nearby town. They were friendly folk, sharing stories of their adventures and offering him food and water. Grateful for their kindness, Thomas shared his own tale, carefully omitting the details of his duel. He didn't want to draw attention to his past mistakes. Later that day, he met an elderly woman tending to a garden beside the path. She greeted him with a warm smile and invited him to rest for a while. As they talked, she sensed his troubled heart and spoke wisely about the importance of forgiveness, not just from others but also toward oneself. Her words struck a deep chord within him, reinforcing his commitment to seek Jack's forgiveness. Feeling energized and encouraged by these encounters, Thomas pressed on. Each new face reminded him that the world was filled with people who believed in second chances, giving him hope that he too could find redemption in Jack's eyes. As Thomas rode deeper into the countryside, he soon faced his first major obstacle. A wide river swollen from recent rains. The current rushed fiercely, and the sound of rushing water echoed ominously in his ears. He hesitated, feeling the weight of frustration bearing down on him. Although he knew he had to cross, fear of failing loomed large. Taking a deep breath, Thomas assessed the situation. He looked around for a safe place to cross and noticed a partially submerged log that could help him navigate. He urged Dusty closer to the bank and then carefully picked his way along the log, balancing with every step. The water splashed against his legs, cold and challenging, but he focused on the goal ahead, reaching Jack. With a final leap, they made it safely to the other side. Panting but relieved, Thomas felt invigorated by overcoming this hurdle. This moment fueled his determination even more. Each obstacle became a test of strength and dedication. As he continued on, the challenges ahead seemed less daunting, inspiring hope that he could indeed make things right with Jack. As Thomas rode further, he could feel the air shifting, signaling that he was nearing Jack's home. Excitement and anxiety churned within him, each step of Dusty's hooves echoing his racing heart. The trees began to thin, and the sound of a distant creek filled the air, reminding him of their childhood adventures. Memories of laughter and shared dreams flooded his mind, making his resolve even stronger. Though the path was familiar, doubt crept back into his thoughts. What if Jack didn't want to see him? What if he still harbored anger from their duel? Thomas shook his head, pushing those worries aside, convinced that facing Jack was necessary for both of them to heal. As he reached a small rise, he spotted Jack's house in the distance. It stood sturdy against the backdrop of the gentle hills, smoke rising from the chimney. In that moment, all his fears faded, leaving only determination. With a deep breath, Thomas urged Dusty forward. He had come so far and faced so many obstacles. Now, just ahead lay the chance to make amends and truly begin to heal the wounds between them. As Thomas approached the front of Jack's house, his heart raced. Dusty shifted nervously beneath him, sensing the tension in the air. Taking a deep breath, Thomas dismounted and walked up to the door, letting memories of their friendship wash over him. Knocking gently, he felt as though his entire journey had led to this moment. The door creaked open, and there stood Jack, looking more worn than Thomas remembered but still strong. Their eyes locked for a brief moment, and Thomas could see a flicker of surprise on Jack's face, quickly followed by uncertainty. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. "Jack," Thomas finally managed to say, his voice shaky but determined. "I've come to apologize. I know I hurt you deeply." Jack's expression shifted from surprise to guarded tension, and then softened as he stepped back, allowing Thomas to enter. As they both stood in the familiar space filled with memories of laughter and friendship, Thomas felt a wave of hope swell within him. This was the chance he had longed for. A moment to mend what had been broken and begin anew. Stepping inside Jack's home, Thomas felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with apprehension. The familiar scent of wood and the flicker of the fireplace brought back memories of happier times spent together. He knew that words alone could not undo the pain he had caused, but he was determined to try. "Jack," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I am truly sorry for what happened between us. I let my anger take control, and I hurt you in a way I never intended." He paused, searching Jack's eyes for any sign of understanding. "I realize now that our friendship meant more to me than I ever showed." Jack listened intently, his expression shifting from guardedness to contemplation. Thomas continued, "I've carried this guilt with me every day since that duel. I regret my actions deeply and wish to make things right." After a moment that felt like an eternity, Jack nodded slowly. "It's going to take time," he replied, his voice quiet but firm. "But I appreciate your honesty." In that moment, a glimmer of hope flickered between them, a chance to rebuild their bond and heal from the past. In the days that followed their heartfelt conversation, Thomas and Jack began to explore the path to forgiveness together. It wasn't easy. Both men carried the weight of the past, but they were committed to finding a way forward. They spent time reminiscing about their childhood, sharing stories that reminded them of happier times and the bond they once had. Gradually, Thomas learned more about Jack's recovery, which was slow but steady. He offered to help with chores around the house, doing his best to lighten Jack's burden. Each small act of kindness helped bridge the gap created by anger and regret. Slowly, laughter began to replace awkward silences as they worked side by side. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, Jack turned to Thomas and said, "I appreciate you being here." Those simple words felt like the first step toward mending their friendship. Together, they started to rebuild trust, discovering that forgiveness was not just a single moment but a journey marked by understanding, patience, and renewed hope for a better future together. As time passed, Thomas found himself reflecting deeply on the lessons learned from his journey. The guilt that had once consumed him began to transform into wisdom. He realized that the road to forgiveness was not just about seeking it from Jack, but also about forgiving himself for his past mistakes. Each challenge he faced, crossing the river, dealing with doubt, and finally confronting Jack, had taught him resilience and humility. Sitting on the porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, Thomas thought about how anger had clouded his judgment and strained their friendship. He understood now that true strength lay in vulnerability and honesty. He had learned that words can wound just as easily as swords, and healing takes time and effort. The bond rekindled between him and Jack became a testament to personal growth. They continued to support each other, growing stronger through shared experiences. As they moved forward together, Thomas felt grateful for the chance to rebuild their friendship and wiser for the journey he had undertaken. a journey that had changed him forever and opened his heart to forgiveness. With the weight of the past lifting, Thomas and Jack embraced the promise of a new beginning. The bond they had rekindled was stronger than ever, built on understanding and a shared commitment to support one another. They spent more time together, going on long walks through the fields, reminiscing about their childhood and discussing their dreams for the future. One sunny afternoon, as they sat by the creek where they used to play as boys, Jack spoke about his plans to open a small trade shop in town. Inspired by Jack's vision, Thomas offered to help him set it up. Together, they brainstormed ideas, excited about building something new that would benefit their community. As days turned into weeks, the townsfolk began to notice the change between them. The whispers of their past faded, replaced by admiration for their friendship and resilience. Thomas felt a sense of peace within himself that he hadn't known before. Through their journey of forgiveness, both men had not only healed old wounds but also discovered the true meaning of friendship, one that thrives on honesty, empathy, and a willingness to grow together.